Good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight as we bring you the latest developments from around the world. From escalating tensions surrounding Iran to growing political divisions across Europe, tonight's stories reveal how the global landscape is rapidly shifting. Stay with us, because several of these developments could have major consequences for international diplomacy and global security. A close ally of Washington is suddenly criticizing U.S. military actions. European leaders are accusing their own union of being hostage to American policy. And Iran has just issued 3 conditions to stop the war. Tonight, we break down what's happening and why it matters. Tonight's top stories. Italy's Prime Minister criticizes U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran, calling them outside international law. Spain's Deputy Prime Minister claims Europe is acting like it's hostage to U.S. leadership. Iran's president reveals 3 conditions that could potentially end the war. And diplomatic pressure grows as global powers push for de-escalation. Now let's begin with our first major story. A surprising voice has now joined the growing criticism of the conflict involving Iran. Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, who is widely known as a close ally of Donald Trump, has openly criticized the military actions taken against Iran. Speaking before the Italian Senate on Wednesday, Meloni warned that the strikes represent a dangerous shift away from international law. According to her remarks, the attacks must be viewed within what she described as a structural crisis in the global international system. In other words, she suggested that the current conflict is not just about Iran, but about the weakening of the international rules that have governed global relations for decades. And that's not the only concern she raised. Meloni also condemned an attack on a school in the southern Iranian city of Minab. Reports indicate that around 170 people were killed, many of them children. The Italian leader described the tragedy as a massacre of young girls and called for a full international investigation. Some U.S. media outlets reported that the building may have been struck by a Tomahawk missile, but President Trump has strongly rejected that claim, saying the attack was carried out by Iran itself. And here's where the political tension deepens. Meloni's remarks come at a time when the war with Iran is becoming increasingly unpopular among the Italian public. Many citizens fear that Italy could eventually be drawn into the conflict. Meanwhile, Meloni herself is preparing for a major domestic referendum on judicial reforms, making the political timing of these comments particularly sensitive. But that's not the only disagreement emerging within Europe tonight, and what happened next raised even more questions about the unity of European leadership. Spain's Deputy Prime Minister, Yolanda Díaz, has accused the European Union of showing weakness when it comes to the Iran war. In an interview with the political news outlet Politico, Díaz said the European Union appears to be acting as if it is hostage to the policies of Donald Trump. According to Díaz, Europe should not simply follow Washington's lead during such a critical moment in history. Instead, she argues the European Union must develop its own independent foreign policy strategy. Her comments reflect growing frustration among some European leaders who believe the EU has not taken a strong enough stance against the conflict. Díaz also criticized Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, for failing to immediately condemn the strikes when they first occurred. And she issued a sharp warning. According to Díaz, European leaders who try too hard to appear loyal to Trump may ultimately gain less respect, not more. But that's not the only point of tension between Washington and Madrid. Trump has reportedly warned Spain that if it refuses to allow the United States to use joint military bases, trade relations between the two countries could be cut off entirely. Spain has also rejected a NATO proposal that would require members to spend 5% of GDP on defense, calling the target unrealistic. All of this is creating a rare moment of political friction between the United States and several European allies. But while political divisions grow in the West, Iran itself has now issued a statement that could potentially change the direction of the conflict. Stay with us, because this next development could be critical. Iran has now publicly outlined 3 conditions that it says could bring the war to an end. The announcement came from Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian. According to Pezeshkian, Tehran remains committed to regional peace, but only if certain key demands are met. Those conditions include: first, recognition of what Iran calls its legitimate national rights. Second, financial compensation for damages caused by the conflict. And third, a strong international guarantee that no future attacks will take place. In a message posted on the social platform X, Pezeshkian said he had recently spoken with leaders in Russia and Pakistan about the situation. He emphasized that Iran believes the conflict began with actions taken by Israel and the United States, and according to the Iranian leader, the only path toward ending the war is through recognition of Iran's rights and international guarantees against further aggression. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts are intensifying behind the scenes. Russia has reportedly remained in close contact with Iran's leadership, urging all sides to halt hostile actions and move toward negotiations. But whether these diplomatic efforts will succeed remains uncertain. When we look at these developments together, a larger picture starts to emerge. A close U.S. ally questioning military actions, European leaders criticizing Washington's influence, and Iran laying out conditions for ending the war. These events suggest that the conflict is no longer just a regional issue. It is now reshaping alliances, political debates, and diplomatic strategies across the world. And here's the key question analysts are asking tonight. Could these political divisions slow the conflict down? Or could they actually make it even harder to reach a peace agreement? Let's quickly recap tonight's key developments. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni criticizes strikes on Iran and calls for an investigation into a deadly school attack. Spain's Deputy Prime Minister Yolanda Díaz claims Europe is behaving like it's hostage to U.S. policy. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian outlines 3 conditions that he says could end the war. And diplomatic efforts are intensifying as global leaders search for a path toward de-escalation. Now we want to hear from you. Do you believe the conditions proposed by Iran could realistically lead to peace, or will the conflict continue to escalate? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want clear, fact-based international news explained in a simple way, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the next major development in this story could happen at any moment. Thank you for watching and staying with us. We'll continue to bring you verified updates as this story develops. Stay informed, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next report.